Imagine a city of 1 million people. Now imagine it silent, no screams, no fires, no survivors, just bones. We've all heard the horror stories of the Mongols, cities wiped from the map, pyramids of skulls stacked high enough to cast shadows at sunset. But what if I told you, the Mongols were not the most brutal empire in history? Not even close. Today, we're opening a door most history books politely keep shut. Because beyond the horsemen of the steppe, there were empires that perfected terror, industrialized slaughter, turned cruelty into state policy, and some of them are still celebrated today. Before we judge who was worse, we need a benchmark. Under Genghis Khan and his successors, the Mongol Empire killed an estimated 30 to 40 million people. Entire cities annihilated, rivers diverted to flood populations, scholars executed, women enslaved. When the city of Nishapur resisted, the Mongols allegedly killed every living creature, including dogs and cats. But here's the detail most people miss. The Mongols were brutally efficient, but often strategic. If a city surrendered immediately, it was usually spared. Resistance triggered annihilation. Fear was the weapon. They used massacres as psychological warfare, a message to future cities: submit or vanish. So now the real question becomes, what empire didn't need resistance to justify brutality? What empire killed even when there was no rebellion? Let's go deeper. Long before the Mongols rode across Asia, the Assyrians were already writing the playbook of terror. The Neo-Assyrian Empire, 900 to 600 BCE, didn't just practice brutality. They advertised it. Their palace walls, especially under kings like Ashurnasirpal II, proudly display scenes of prisoners being flayed alive, rebels impaled on stakes, limbs severed, skulls piled outside city gates. And this wasn't hidden, it was carved into stone reliefs, displayed publicly. Why? Because Assyrian kings believed fear was governance. Ashurnasirpal II once boasted, "I flayed as many nobles as had rebelled. I covered the pillar with their skins." This wasn't rumor. It was state propaganda. The Assyrians deported entire populations, millions over generations, tearing families from their homeland to prevent rebellion. The goal wasn't just conquest. It was psychological annihilation. Unlike the Mongols, who often spared surrendering cities, the Assyrians used cruelty routinely, even after victory. And here's the twist. They were so brutal that when their empire collapsed, their enemies showed no mercy. Nineveh burned so completely that it disappeared for centuries. History remembered the Mongols. But the Assyrians, they were so feared, they became a cautionary legend. But they were only the beginning. When we think of Rome, we think law, roads, architecture, civilization. But Rome's expansion was soaked in blood. Take Carthage. After 3 Punic Wars, Rome didn't just defeat Carthage. They erased it. An estimated 150,000 people killed or enslaved. The city burned for days. The land allegedly salted so nothing would grow. During the siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD, Roman forces crucified thousands of Jews outside the city walls. So many crosses. There wasn't enough wood. Crucifixion wasn't just execution. It was public spectacle, a warning. Under Roman conquest, entire tribes were exterminated. Julius Caesar's Gallic Wars resulted in the deaths of up to 1 million Gauls, another million enslaved. That's not warfare. That's demographic collapse. And yet Rome is remembered as glorious. Why? Because history is written by architects. The Mongols left ruins. Rome left monuments. But brutality, Rome industrialized it. And yet, even Rome would be outmatched. Now this is where it becomes uncomfortable. Because brutality doesn't always look like conquest. Sometimes it looks like religion. The Aztec Empire built its power on ritual sacrifice. Thousands of captives, often from neighboring tribes, were sacrificed annually. Some historians estimate that during the dedication of the Great Temple of Tenochtitlan in 1487, up to 20,000 people were sacrificed over 4 days. Hearts removed while still beating, bodies cast down pyramid steps, skulls displayed on massive racks called sompantli. To the Aztecs, this wasn't cruelty, it was cosmic necessity. The sun required blood. But here's the disturbing part. Many surrounding tribes hated Aztec rule so deeply, they sided with the Spanish conquistadors, not because the Spanish were kind, but because Aztec dominance was relentless. Was it conquest like the Mongols? No, it was ritualized terror. And yet, there was still an empire that turned brutality into global industry. Now we enter modern horror, the Congo Free State, owned personally by King Leopold II of Belgium, not governed, owned. From 1885 to 1908, an estimated 10 million Congolese died under forced labor systems for rubber extraction. Villages that failed to meet quotas had their hands cut off, children mutilated, women taken hostage, men executed. And unlike the Mongols, this wasn't medieval chaos. This was bureaucratic, accounted, logged. The force publique required soldiers to present severed hands as proof they hadn't wasted bullets. Imagine a system so cruel that terror becomes paperwork. The Mongols conquered territory. Leopold extracted profit. And here's the chilling truth. This happened in the age of photography. It's documented. And yet, how often do you hear about it compared to Genghis Khan? History doesn't just forget brutality. It prioritizes it. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, some empires were brutal, but we haven't even touched the empire that burned entire cities for sport, the regime that turned starvation into policy, the civilization that erased cultures by design. And one of them may have killed more people than the Mongols ever did. Stay with me, because the worst is still ahead. When we talk about brutality, we often imagine swords, fire, and screaming battlefields. But what if the deadliest weapon wasn't steel? What if it was microbes? In 1519, Hernán Cortés arrived in Mesoamerica with around 600 men. Within 2 years, the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan fell. But here's what history doesn't fully process. It wasn't just conquest, it was demographic annihilation. Smallpox spread like wildfire, then measles, then influenza, then typhus. Within a century of Columbus's arrival, an estimated 50 to 90% of the indigenous population of the Americas had died. Let that sink in. Entire civilizations erased, cities abandoned, languages lost, cultures shattered. Now, disease was not intentionally engineered, but forced labor systems like the encomienda pushed already weakened populations into starvation and exhaustion. In the Caribbean, the Taino population collapsed almost entirely within decades. On Hispaniola alone, hundreds of thousands died. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Some conquistadors documented atrocities proudly. Bartolomé de las Casas described infants torn from mothers, villages burned, and mass hangings. The Mongols destroyed cities. The Spanish conquest triggered continental collapse. And yet, it gets darker. Because brutality becomes even more terrifying when it's modern. In 1915, during World War I, the Ottoman government initiated what would become one of the first modern genocides. The Armenian population, Christian minorities within the empire, were accused of disloyalty. The response? Mass deportations. Death marches through the Syrian desert. Men executed first. Women and children forced to walk hundreds of miles with no food, no water. If they collapsed, They were shot. An estimated 1 to 1.5 million Armenians died. But here's the difference from the Mongols. This wasn't battlefield chaos. It was administrative, trains scheduled, orders signed, confiscation laws enacted, entire villages emptied, property seized, identity erased, and denial followed for over a century. The Mongols used fear to expand. This was fear used to purify. And we haven't even touched the empire that turned torture into laboratory science. Most people know about Nazi atrocities. Far fewer know about Unit 731. During the Second Sino-Japanese War, Imperial Japan established biological and chemical warfare research facilities in occupied China. What happened inside? Human experimentation, prisoners infected with plague, vivisections performed without anesthesia, frostbite experiments, chemical weapon testing on civilians. The Nanjing massacre alone resulted in an estimated 200,000 to 300,000 deaths. Mass rape, mass executions, bodies dumped in rivers. And here's what's chilling. Some of the scientists were later granted immunity in exchange for their research data. Brutality traded for intelligence. The Mongols slaughtered openly. Imperial Japan dissected in silence. But then we reach the empire that redefined industrialized death. The Mongols built pyramids of skulls. The Nazis built factories, gas chambers designed for efficiency, train schedules timed to the minute, industrial crematoria, 6 million Jews murdered, millions more, Roma, disabled individuals, political prisoners, Slavs, LGBTQ victims. Total deaths under the Nazi regime during World War II exceed 17 million civilians. This wasn't rage, it was system, paperwork, engineering, bureaucracy. Human beings reduced to numbers, hair collected, teeth extracted, ash scattered. The Mongols conquered through terror. The Nazis weaponized modernity itself. But if you think the 20th century learned its lesson, history has one more revelation. In the 1750s, the Qing dynasty faced rebellion from the Dzungar Mongols in what is now northwest China. The response? Total eradication. The Qianlong Emperor reportedly ordered the complete extermination of the Dzungar people. Estimates suggest up to 80% of the population died through warfare, massacres, and deliberate policies of annihilation. Some historians classify it as genocide. Irony? Mongols were victims this time. The empire once feared for annihilation, nearly annihilated itself. Brutality is not cultural, it is systemic, and systems evolve. Now we enter a different kind of brutality. Not swords, not gas chambers, policy. During British rule in India, multiple famines devastated the population. The Bengal famine of 1943 alone killed an estimated 3 million people. Food existed. Grain was exported. Wartime priorities and colonial economic policies exacerbated starvation. Earlier famines in the 19th century killed tens of millions across India. In Ireland, during the Great Famine, food continued to be exported while the population starved. This wasn't spectacle violence. It was economic indifference, brutality by neglect, no pyramids of skulls, just empty villages, silent deaths. And that's what makes it terrifying. Because it's easy to condemn visible cruelty. It's harder to confront systemic exploitation. So now we return to the original question. Were the Mongols the most brutal empire in history? They killed tens of millions. Yes, but they did it in an age of swords. What happens when brutality meets industrialization, bureaucracy, ideology, profit? The scale changes. The efficiency increases. The cruelty becomes invisible. The Mongols shocked the medieval world. Modern empires normalized devastation. And here's the final truth that history whispers. Every empire believes it is justified. The Assyrians believed they were chosen. Rome believed it brought civilization. The Aztecs believed they were feeding the sun. Leopold believed he was bringing progress. The Nazis believed they were purifying. Brutality is rarely random. It is rationalized, and that is far more dangerous than horsemen on the horizon. So the next time someone says, the Mongols were the most brutal empire in history, ask them, compared to who? Because history is not a list of villains, it's a mirror. And if we're not careful, the next empire to rationalize cruelty might not ride horses. It might wear suits. It might use algorithms. It might look civilized. But civilization has never guaranteed mercy. Subscribe to Archeon because the past is not dead. It's just waiting to be understood.